Everyone, welcome to another edition of Independent Artists Unite song series. Super psyched to have my friend from New York City here today, Dario from Dario and the Clear, to talk about his song Recall. Welcome, my friend.
Hey, how you doing, Scott?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing well.
Um, Now, we're both huge David Bowie fans. This is why I wanted to talk about
Yes.
this song, because
Yeah,
this
yeah.
this this is if you haven't heard this song, go check it out. I put it on the show's playlist, everyone. Um, this is a real fun tribute to David Bowie.
Yeah, I liked recording it and writing it. Yeah. It
And
came out the way I wanted it to come out, so I'm happy about that.
well, I'm curious about that because there's a lot of fun name drops of song titles and song lyrics and things like
Yes.
that. Um, but were you tempted to also go in the direction of more of like a musical homage as well? There's a bit of saxophone in there that could be from Young
Okay.
Americans or
See, I
something.
knew you would
Like,
pick that up. Okay, so yeah, I went through a lot of that because I was trying to think. I was listening to the Black Tie White Noise album a lot.
okay,
Okay, so I had not, like with David Bowie, there's a lot of times I went out, I took like little breaks every now and then. So he would have all these albums would come out, and I probably missed several of them, wait years behind. Then I
mm-hmm.
would go buy them, and then I'm like, where is he at? It always took me a while, right?
Right, yeah, yeah,
I was
yeah.
definitely late to the party sometimes,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I had that CD, and I was working with a musician, about 40-minute ride, and all of a sudden I just grabbed some CDs for the ride, and one of them was Black Tie White Noise. And I had remembered like kind of listening to it, but that day, that moment, that morning, it
Yeah,
was the CD for me to hear.
it hit you, yeah.
Yeah. And so I fell in love and probably listened to that CD like for 3 weeks straight. I'm not sure why. There was something about it just fit the mood, the day, and everything. And so going back to your question, like there was always like, he's always ahead of his time. There was so I started with that synth sound, that kind of vocal, growly kind of synth sound. And then I wanted my heavy guitars, but then I said, oh, David Bowie, as he says, was kind of a frustrated sax player. I guess he could play sax, but he said he
Yeah.
was never good enough. And actually, I went to school with Donnie McCassin, who played on Black Star.
Wow, okay.
So he was at Berkeley at the same time, and he was like very because he did a project for me. I was an arranging class, so I actually
Wow.
did reach out to him, but he's a busy guy. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
I
did you teach at Berkeley or were you a student at Berkeley?
no, I was a student at
A
Berkeley.
student at Berkeley. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I want to get
Donnie
into
and I
the
were both, yeah, we were both students at the time, but he was like the guy on campus, as far as sax players, he was the guy. And so anyway, I figured like, well, I didn't want to do a guitar solo. I figured so a tribute to both, like he wanted to do, so I wanted the sax in there.
hmm.
And then I did a little bit of that atonal, the beginning after the intro, that little kind of, I guess, frippish kind of line.
Yeah, I was
And
gonna say, is this a Frippish thing? Is this a Fripp thing or is it an Adrian Belew thing? I was more
well, I
curious.
don't, yeah, they kind of go like this, right?
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is, I think harmonically, I'm thinking Fripp, and I was tapping. That was a tap thing I did on the guitar. So I kind of just mixed that all in together. And that's how that bit came about as far as the instrumentation goes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, well, I was wondering if you're gonna do like just a classic kind of Mick Ronson dirty Les Paul solo.
well, just that beginning, maybe use I think I used a Strandberg for that one. Yeah, I should use maybe the Les Paul. Yeah. But it wouldn't be his Les Paul.
But it's interesting that you listen to Black Tie White Noise because it was that was like I think at that stage, actually it reminds me a bit of what you do as well, because he really stacks. Well, he's always played with fabulous musicians, but I think as time goes on, he like really made it like the top of the top. Like if he's doing a funk record, anything funky, he gets the top of the
Oh
top
yeah, yeah, yeah.
across, you know,
Yeah.
and so I feel like that's a like a very kind of thick, like musically album. You know what I mean? There's a
Oh
lot of
yeah. I mean,
lot
it's
of
a
notes
lot.
played, a lot of notes played on Black Tie White
I mean,
Noise.
it's a killer track, and the title, the title track, Black Noise, Black Tie White
Black Tie
Noise.
White
That's
Noise,
a
yeah.
killer track too. I mean, I just, and then he did the ambient, kind of techno, instrumentals in there as well, you
Mm,
know, and, uh, and then I got turned on to during that period. I was listening to the song Cactus, which I thought was written by him, but
mm.
it wasn't, and I thought it should have been written by. It sounds because he delivers it so well, And what the Pixies wrote that, I believe, but he did a great version of that.
And what about? I was surprised when I learned out that he didn't write Night Flight on that album
I
either.
know, and
That
I think
that's
his
a
name was last name was Walker,
Yeah, Scott Walker. Yeah,
Scott Walker. There you
yeah,
go.
yeah.
Yeah, there you go. And I think that was like his girlfriend's boyfriend at the time or something he was talking about. Because I bought that big David Bowie book about songs. He describes the songs, and I guess she liked his music better than David's. So that's
Okay, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So then he found it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, this is the now I want to get into a little fun name dropping session, because you work with so
okay.
many illustrious musicians, but I'll do one name drop here, is that I actually know Scott Walker's daughter.
Oh,
She's Danish. Yeah, yeah. So
oh, okay.
she's always posting various tributes or whatever that come up about Scott Walker, who's left us, you know. But yeah, this list of musicians that you've played with, Dario, is like insane. And I don't know so much. Um, I mean, I recognize the really big names like Tony Levin, for instance, that
Mhm.
you have worked with, which is just like totally insane. You know, someone that was
Yeah.
in Crimson and is famously played with Peter Gabriel and like so many others. I
Yeah.
mean, did that spin out of your time at Berkeley, or is that a geographical thing of
It was a geographical thing, and I mean, it was kind of a fun story because, I live in the Hudson Valley, and
mm,
so do a lot of other musicians, and
yeah,
we would just have on a Saturday night, in this town called Rhinebeck,
yeah,
and it's a club that I would play at. So I went to visit it, since I wasn't playing. I figured, well, let me go and see who was playing there. And all of a sudden I walked in and I'm looking at, Tony's kind of really distinguished, that's Tony Levin. There's no mistaking, right? And
the
I'm looking
head, the
over and I'm like,
mustache.
what's he doing here? Like I don't think I knew he lived in the Hudson Valley.
Yeah.
I don't think at that time I didn't know. And I'm like, is that him? And so I walked up to him very cautiously and said, Tony Levin? And he goes, yeah, he was really cool. And he's telling me he's playing there tonight. He's the band. And there was it's called Uncle Funk. So it's a put together band. And then who comes along is Jerry Marotta. I'm like, oh no, the two of you were here? He goes, oh yeah, I'm playing drums. And so I was
And
like, wow,
who is
what
he
a great night.
who has he played with? Just some names, just so people
Who, Jerry
understand.
Marotta?
Jim Murata, yeah.
Oh, he played on the classic albums, for Peter Gabriel, the Melting Face album, and
Okay.
Security, Security,
All right.
which
Yeah, yeah,
are
yeah.
two of my favorite albums
Wow.
by
Yeah,
him,
yeah, yeah.
and Tears for Fears, Indigo Girls, Paul McCartney.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, the list goes on and
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, anyway, when they were on break, I talked to Jerry, and so he's like, we never met. So he goes, I'm a musician too. I was finished an album, I think, and she goes, well, I'm making a studio. I'm doing a studio and getting set up for that. So if you ever need to record something, give me a call. It was several years later, and I said, well, yeah, let me see. let's do some work with Jerry. Let's go to his studio. And so he goes, I don't really have a steady band anymore. So, and he asked me, he goes, well, who do you want to play drums? So I said, well, are you available? So Jerry goes, yeah, I'll play drums. And then he goes, what are you thinking about bass player? And I figure I'll just take a shot in the dark here. Go,
Yeah,
you love
maybe
it?
Tony
I
Levin.
mean, they're buddies. They've worked on a million sessions, right? And he goes, well, I don't know. He goes, here's his, email. Give him, drop him an email and see what he says. And I did. And he said, yes, but it took like 6 months. He goes, can you wait 6 months? I said, sure. That was no rush.
This is a great lesson that I always remind myself of is if you want something, you gotta ask.
Yeah, I mean,
Nothing's just gonna be, they're not
it
gonna
really is that
volunteer.
simple, and they were really cool guys. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, they're totally approachable, what I mean, and they think, I was kind of serious about. So, and I had sent them demos, and my demos are not the greatest thing. I was on I think I was on a Zoom digital recorder, and I barely mix anything. The best I do is like a pan left and right.
Mm.
So, but they understood the demo, so
Yeah.
they.
Well, they can understand that you're, a virtuosic player,
I don't know
for
if they
sure.
understood.
Of your time and Berkeley. If anybody hasn't checked out Dario, it's you're an incredible player.
Well, thank
So
you so much.
I'm sure they got that right away, and we're like, oh, okay, yeah,
Oh,
we can
yeah.
have fun with this guy.
Yeah, we did it, especially that one. It was funny because I did ask Tony Levin to bring a regular bass, I think his Music Man, and then I did want the Chapman stick. Even though I was playing Chapman stick, obviously I was nowhere near his level, and so I said, you play the Chapman stick on Tattooed Prophet, and luckily he goes, because it's like a riffy thing in the middle of it, so he
Yeah.
goes, that was really cool of you because it fits really well on the stick. And I think that was by pure coincidence. Because
Oh yeah, man. Yeah.
it worked out. Otherwise, you'd be like trying to figure out this stupid thing that I wrote for the stick, and wanted the stick, and it doesn't fit on the stick that well. But he said it worked out really well for him, so I was happy about that.
Yeah. Um, and who and have you played with Earl Slick too? Speaking of David Bowie, or was that just a
I
meet
did play
and
with
greet?
Earl Slick,
Okay.
but it was at I was doing a show, an event, and there was some other local bands there, and he had this warehouse, and his Mike, he was a photographer, and he had done photos of Earl Slick.
Okay.
And so when we had this party, he and Earl Slick were friends, so Earl Slick was hanging out. So he came to this big, huge warehouse party where several bands were playing. And at the end, I got to hang out with him, chat a little bit. And I said, well, do you feel like playing? He goes, yeah. So he and it was one of my songs, Seven Stars to Heaven. And he came up and there was a bunch of musicians on stage. This was like, the big, where there's like 10 guitar players on stage. And no, not that many. There's probably just 10 musicians, and it was about 4 guitar players. And what key? And off we went. And I was like, wow, he's playing on Seven Stars to Heaven. Like this is so. He's a very nice guy.
Yeah.
Cool.
If people don't know, he played on Bowie's Station to Station album. Was that the only album he played on? Or maybe he played on some later ones.
I thought he played on more, but obviously
he might have played on The Next Day actually, or something.
Excuse me, sorry, Scott.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah.
Okay. Directing never stops. Okay.
Speaking of directing, how do you direct musicians like that? Are you you're actually writing parts and saying, hey, here you go? Or are you saying,
sometimes
do your thing,
I really used to be into writing out stuff. And then I tell you what, once I did leave Berkeley, no one was really using that, you know what I mean? So if I
Mm,
would write out stuff, most people don't read,
mm,
um, and stuff like that. So I would write out basic chord charts, and but a lot of times, like Tony Levin and I worked with Trey Gunn as well. These guys all have like amazing ears.
mm.
Um, so they can just hear what I'm doing very easily. I didn't have to write out anything. Some people ask for like certain directions, which is fine because I would definitely ask for a chart as much as possible. Well, sometimes they just want you to wing a section, whatever you hear, do it that way. So they're not very specific. So,
Mm.
but they were, yeah, most of those guys did it all by ear. Yeah.
And are you like even offering that to pay them something, or is that just silly? They're just there just to because they want to play, or
No, I like to pay everyone.
okay.
I do because it's even though like we could be friends and stuff. I think everyone should get paid.
Mm, mm, mm.
Those guys. Even if even if you wanted $20, I don't care. It's just the exchange of appreciating your gift,
Yeah.
your talents. So even if they said, Gary, I don't want anything for the session, and I would say, then I'm taking you out something, because there are really good friends that, they don't want anything, but it's like it should be that kind of thing. I think it's just a sign of respect from me.
Yeah. 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 And how did you choose the people to play on Recall? Were they specifically people that you knew had a Bowie appreciation as well, or
No, almost. Well, actually, on that, it's pretty much me playing everything except for the
okay.
drum and the
Oh,
sax.
yeah.
Okay, so I play the bass, I play the keyboards, I do all that stuff, and the guitar and singing. So actually, that was the exact opposite. I had met that was Eric Person on sax. And actually I met him on an acting gig one time. And I didn't even know he was a musician until like 7 hours into, because you have nothing to do for 7 hours. So you chat a lot. And then finally found out he's a
Yeah.
musician. So I went to see him one time and he's a, jazz straight ahead guy all the way. And so when I had called him, I said, well, I've got this rock song. And he's like, rock song? Like, I was like, I think you'll be really good for this. And he came in and
Mm,
he's just like, so pretty much I feel like a director because you are
mm,
picking your casting and then they don't even like he's like I don't know if I could do this. I'm like I think you can. I think and also just pushing other people's envelopes is really
mm,
cool because he goes just tell me kind of what you want. So a lot of times I would just sing him I want that. I want some I want a flurry of notes
mm,
and
mm,
and he would execute that. And we did the whole he all his parts were done like in an hour. And that was it. And we did a couple of takes, and so I could tell he was like a little hesitant. Is this the way you want it? I'm like, oh yeah, this is great. Do like a Coltrane, cascading bunch of notes here, lay back here, and he was great. I think I love his sax work on it. Actually, I
and
want to transcribe it on guitar and do a duel with him one day on that.
oh,
That's down
wow.
the road.
Um, yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned acting and directing in terms of these musicians. I was gonna, because I know you're an actor as well, and I was
Hmm.
gonna ask you how the two relate or don't relate.
No,
So
they
that's
definitely
interesting.
relate. And remember, I came really late to the acting thing. I mean, I just started like maybe 8 years ago. So I
Mm,
really feel like a young pup every time I go to set, because there's people that have been doing this since like there was seven or something.
yeah.
And so I always feel really new. And yeah, it definitely made a difference, especially, I took classes in New York City and stuff. And I did study, and which was a good thing to do. People should study a lot.
Yeah.
And no, so reading the scripts, what's the backstory? So I think I did learn, like, even though I think my lyric writing changed because of that, you know,
Mm,
developing characters now,
mm,
uh, getting really specific or imagining the scene in my head. So then if I imagine it there, then I kind of start putting it on paper.
mm,
And I can almost act out the scene if I was playing it on stage. How would the song, what would I be doing? What would the audience reaction? So I'm thinking that way. And then again, like casting, like being a casting person. Who would be really great for this song? And it was like that was the thing with when I asked Trey Gunn to do the first song. He was on the trilogy Optic Nerve. I had the song Designated Skin, which was in my head for like 10 years, which I did play out with another band, but I never liked the arrangement. So I
And
rewrote
who is
and
Trey
I
Gunn
said,
played with too, just so we have some
"Oh,
name
Trey Gunn,
recognition?
he King Crimson,
King
and he
Crimson.
played David Sylvian."
Wow. Okay.
And God, I'm missing him. I'm sure. Sorry, Trey, but
No, that's cool. Just a couple names, just so
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So and then on this new one, then on the Banker of Noise, when I wrote Convicting Silence, like I knew I had to call Trey up again,
Mm,
and he's like, yeah, I'm totally down with this. So yeah, picking the right people, Eric Person, for that one. I got to play with a lot of great people from the past, even Mark Egan, bass player from Pat Metheny's band. I did a song called
yeah, right.
Judas Kiss, and he came in with he played fretted and fretless bass. And it starts with him doing a very lyrical fretless bass melody and then kicked into fretted bass. And it worked, so I think I have a good idea of who to bring in. So
Yeah. Amazing.
that's important. So yeah, the acting and the music thing, I think it did help me a lot to go through the acting process. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and yeah, I was, the saxophone, actually, you may know East Side Sound. You know the
I,
studio East Side Sound? You know Lou Holtzman, East Side Sound.
I don't
He
know.
he
Sorry.
he recorded a lot of jazz albums there. And my band in the 90s recorded our album there. And he knew all these jazz musicians, and he brought in a saxophone player, this guy named Chico Freeman. I don't know if you've ever heard of Chico Freeman.
No.
I'm sure the your saxophone player knows who he is.
Every person. Okay.
Yeah,
I'll
Eric
ask.
Person. It's not the flurry of notes, like the way he did it. It
Oh
sounded
yeah.
very much like what he did too. It was this kind of almost like avant-garde thing, like
Yes. Right.
you know.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it.
And then, but did you with Eric? Did you at the end? Did he straighten it out and do those held notes that it reminded me of something off of Young Americans or something like that?
Yes, yes, yeah. Then we wanted to,
Or
yeah. Then it's like,
which
okay,
was
the
David
examinees
Sanborn,
over.
rest
Then
in
it's like, yeah,
peace.
because then I start playing the bass. I just kind of do steady eighth notes and just rocking it out. So kick out the outro. And
Yeah.
then Eric kind of came up, right. He holds those longer notes and a melodic outro. Yes, because then I figure, all right, we gave him enough insanity. Let's just kind of be normal again. Unfortunately.
Now, have I seen you to? I guess this could be a geographical thing too. Have you sat in like at Daryl's house with Daryl Hall?
I recorded at his studio.
Oh, you recorded at his studio. Okay.
Yeah. I was working not far down the road, and I got to meet actually T-Bone Walk. It's all bass player day today,
Oh
and
yeah.
he came
T-Bone
in,
Walker, yeah.
and we became like friends. He would just come in, like the studio was like almost walking distance, so he'd just come in and hang out. And then I met Peter, the engineer, and I've known Peter for a while. And then again, it was one of those things, yeah, because I'm always writing. So, yeah, are you working on anything? Why, by the way, yes, I am. So he goes, the studio's here if you want. So he took me for a tour of the studio, which is a really cool place. And I think I started out with this was supposed to be my second solo album, and so I just did one song, kind of just feel it out. And then once that went well, I ended up recording most of the album, parts of Porcelain Angel, and then I did the Primitive Mask. So yeah, it was a fun time. I always have fun recording. I mean, there's very few times when recording sessions. I mean, there have been a few, but very few.
Yeah.
But things are not going exactly the way they should.
But I
But
think one thing that you can't. I mean, you can back up. You can back up your invitation with your musical ability, but I think one thing is just that you're easy to talk to. You have a great energy about you, because if you don't have those things, then there is no conversation. You know what I mean? It's
Oh,
all,
yeah. I mean, if you're like with, yeah, I love chatting with people. Yeah, I'm just
yeah,
like, yeah, I do. Well, people are fascinating to me, and I do like conversation. Plus, I was like I was always in the hospitality business when I was younger. So when I was like 12, 13, I was already working in restaurants and stuff. So I was always interacting and older with a lot of older people too. So I think that's where I got that communication thing going on of just talking to people. Hi, how are you? How's your day going?
yeah,
And then being in the music business. So when you go out, a lot of people like talking to musicians and stuff, and I like talking to them. So
yeah, yeah.
works out.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it really is like an essential skill to have, Um, and yeah, I'm wondering, I'm wondering if like this new crop of musicians coming up will have that skill, because so many things are happening online. People don't even see each other face to face anymore.
No, it is. I'll tell you what, there is a strange thing going on.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times it's so odd because you can even say like you can have like if I'm going to the gym or something, right? I can, just walking. I don't know the person, but I'm just like, hey, and they'll put their head down
Hmm.
to ignore the hi or the hello, like
Yeah.
they don't want to be. Oh wait, he said hello to me, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
like, or they have this downward position, the headward, and
Yeah.
I know
What does he
Mr.
want from me?
Fitness. Yeah, like nothing, absolutely nothing.
I just want to be nice and say hello. No,
Yeah, hi.
here in Denmark, it's like I always, and everyone that is like a kind of a expatriate that, from somewhere that comes here will
Okay.
say this, that people don't say hi and hey, what's up? Like even people, like if my kids have had a play date over at their house,
Yeah.
and I'll pass them by in the morning, and like I've seen them every morning, right? For like 10 years, taking kids to school and stuff like that. And I'll be like, just head down, walk on by. Yeah. It's just like,
What's happening there too?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
no.
but it's like, yeah, it's like a cultural thing here too. But I think it's being reinforced with this, where more and more people are like, for instance, with me, with my producer, with my music, we've never met face to face. We were almost going to try when I was in the States a couple months ago, but
Okay.
it didn't work out. But yeah, so it's just all the sending of the digital files back and forth all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of miss that sometimes, but the other side of it too is that you can do that. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Before, like, I mean, I've done it before in the past where I flew people in, but that would get costly. So things
mm,
are kind of getting imbalanced in a way because musicians aren't making that much money, but you also don't need to go spend uh hundreds and thousands of dollars. You can get most of that project done.
mm.
So the technology's coming up. We're not making any money. So in a way, it's kind of
Yeah,
balances out because I don't think anyone goes in with $1 million budgets,
not anymore. Nah.
anymore.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
even like
but
the
it's
major
like they
bands, I
love to
don't think
play. It's like
yeah,
these
unless you're
guys
high,
like Levin,
release.
or they love to play, and like you said, he's there doing some funk thing just to
Yeah.
play.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah. And it's let's not talk about that side of the music business, but it's really hard to get the music across these days.
yeah,
And but I just create it anyway. You know what I mean? I'm doing
yeah,
it anyway. So I really did think to myself because it was kind of depressing. Like, you think like, oh, I'm not selling enough or this or that, right? Or I'm not making enough. You barely make enough money for one song that you recorded.
yeah,
But then I really, I was a big fan of Van Gogh. And I said to myself, you know what? Van Gogh, he sold one painting in his life, but he went out there every day and painted anyway.
yeah,
And I was like, you know what? that's the attitude I'm taking. I'm gonna keep because you're like you keep writing. Yeah, I mean, this is just a thing that I do,
Yeah,
and it comes really natural to me. So I'm already writing another album,
yeah,
and because I don't want it. If the songs stay in here, I'll probably have like 8 songs playing in my head at one time, and that's not good. You
yeah.
know, so I go in it just
Be one
let
of
me
those
get that
guys
out of my
babbling along
head.
the street. Got to
Yeah,
get it
that
out.
would be. Well, I
Actually,
would
that
fit in
reminds
right
me
in
of
at times.
Jeff Buckley. You
Yeah,
know Jeff Buckley, right?
yeah, yeah.
I knew a little bit in the '90s, and I saw him. I said, "Hey, Jeff, how's it going?" And he came across the street, and he goes, "Hey, yeah, man, you know, it's like I got the songs in here. You know, I gotta get it out. You know, this is just, it's,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like I gotta get it out." That's exactly, he was using the exact same words. You know,
Yeah. Oh,
you
yeah.
can't walk around with them that
Yeah, walk
ricocheting
around.
through his head.
Especially if you're backlogged with them, you know?
But another thing too is that I've been talking also with my producer and some other musician friends that it really, I mean, it seems like a trite thing to say, but it is so true that the making of it is the success. You know, the fact
Oh, yeah.
that you get through, you go through the idea process and the writing and get people together and it comes together, and that playback moment, you know, and that's
Oh,
it. That's a
yeah, yeah.
success.
You're right. You're
Everything
absolutely
else
right.
is just like a total, you know,
Yeah,
who
I
knows?
agree. And it's
No.
funny because when I was at Berkeley, uh, I got a bachelor's degree, so you had to take other courses, and one of them was art history.
Mm,
And I tell you, people ask me like, "What course really did it for you at Berkeley?" And I go, "Art history." I'm
mm,
like, "Really?" Yeah, because it was art history 1 and 2, and I was thankful for that because that teacher, she was so over the top excited about art, and I really didn't know,
mm,
you know. I mean, that's where I got the Van Gogh, and we would go to museums. And then I love the whole fact I kind of took that like with a blank canvas, right? So when we go into the studio, tape or whatever you're using, there's nothing there. And then we add a stroke, a paint stroke, right? Or we add the guitar, and then it starts to build. So out of nothing, all of a sudden we have this composition or painting. And I learned a lot from that class too, like as far as mixes, like the vanishing point.
mm,
So, cast shadows. So, how does that look? So, oh yeah, that guitar should be placed there in the mix. This
mm.
should be like that. That should be pulled back. What's in the forefront? What's in the background? And so, in a way, that art class did a lot for me, which I
Yeah,
had looked
yeah.
into years later. All the stuff that she told me about art, I would use in mixing and recording music and how to think about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
was
it's interesting. I mean, Van Gogh is far from the only one that, you know, of artists that just really woke up each day and worked, you know,
yeah,
and didn't have, you know, fame and fortune in their time for sure.
right.
So yeah, that is super inspiring. Now,
I think
did you
yeah.
record any of this album to tape still, or was it digital?
All this new stuff, yeah, it's all been digital. I mean, yeah. Uh, I think the closet behind me has some tapes. And
What
I'm
about
talking,
their
I
what
think I
about
went to
Daryl
the
Hall
closet.
Studio? Is he going to tape still, or is he digital as
That,
well?
that was ADATs back then.
Eight, okay.
That was ADAT period.
So
I
he's
did
probably
was
digital now
it
then.
1 inch tape, the big tape. That was probably like $150 back then for like 20 minutes, I believe. So, but it is
There are,
cool.
yeah, there are financial advantages.
Yeah, yeah, for 20 minutes, right? I mean, you do think about those. Oh my God, how they did some of those things back then, right? And
Mm,
cutting with I mean, like a
by
razor.
hand, yeah,
Oh my God.
yeah.
I hope you get it right.
Yeah, right. Um, well, actually, our Zoom half hour is almost over here. I don't I didn't get the pro membership of Zoom, so that keeps me to half hour shows. Otherwise, I'll talk for 3 hours.
I can
But
see how we could
I
do
really
that.
enjoyed this, man. It was really fun, really
Oh, well,
fun.
it's always a pleasure talking to you,
And
Scott.
yeah, and I love Recall. I really
Oh,
enjoyed listening to it as a Bowie fan.
yeah.
Um,
Well, thank you so
and
much.
yeah, look forward to whatever is banging around your head. Look forward to it making it out
Oh, it will be coming out. Yeah, it's
out onto
well,
the
I already started 2 songs already.
wow.
So I already got 2. I mean, the whole album is laid out, the new album, and so far we got 2. And I usually that's what I do. I'll take 2 at a time,
Yeah.
work on 2. And I always like doing 8 songs. I'm old school. I like that kind of Beatle, Led Zeppelin. Just give me 8 of your best. Don't fill it up just because it's a CD. I don't need to hear 15 tracks of stuff that don't really are worthy to be recorded or they're B-sides. Try to give your best.
Yeah, yeah.
And plus I think 8 is a good number, right? To
Yeah.
listen to. Yeah, that was like those Led Zeppelin albums and some of those Beatles, right? Oh yeah, I'm good. That was right there. That's all I need. No more other stuff needed. So that's how I work with that.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, man.
All right.
And yeah, talk to you soon. And keep going, man. Because also, you're building a that's what I wanted to say is it's about building a body of work too, right? I mean, and these are
Yeah,
memories and these musicians you have, you're building this body of work, and no matter what, no one can take that away from you, right?
you are so correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you're right. So, yep, keep writing. And you as
Yeah.
well, right? You're writing constantly as well.
Yeah, I mean, I try not to write as much as it comes naturally at this point. But I have an album coming out at the end of July. But then I just sent my producer, eight song ideas for the second album
Okay, so you're
already.
doing that 8 song thing too. Okay, perfect. Well, good luck
Actually,
with your projects as well.
thanks, man. I'll talk to
All
you
right.
soon. Thanks for doing
All
this.
right, take care now. Bye bye.